And a warm welcome to all of you to the second session in the series titled Universal Truths from the Bhagavad Gita. For Chinmaya Mission Sevaks, Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda's Jayanti is marked as a Seva Day. Taking this as an opportunity to express our love and gratitude, this series of 12 sessions is our submission at his lotus feet like the squirrel for Lord Rama. It is said that such simple offering of the squirrel was accepted by the Lord by placing his palm on its back and leaving the imprint of his fingers. We also humbly hope that we get such blessings when our small offerings as part of the 108-year celebrations are accepted by Pujya Gurudev. So be it. Om Tat Sat. This session is titled We All Are Teachers. Be like Krishna, not Drona. We're talking about two great teachers. One is Krishna, the Jagat Guru, and the other is Dronacharya-ji, an ordinary Guru. Each word of Bhagavad Gita is very important. Let's take a look at this sloka. Krishna Vasudevosmi Pandavanam Dhananjayah Muninamapyaham Vyasah Kavinamushana Kavihi. Bhagavan, in the 10th chapter, sloka number 37, says that of the descendants of the Rishni clan, I am Vasudeva, meaning the son of Vasudeva, the king of the Rishni clan. Vasudeva is Bhagavan himself, Lord Krishna. And of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa Bhagavan. What about you and me then? So in the 15th chapter, he says, Mame Vamsho Jiva Loki Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Anashashtanindriyani Isthani Karshati. Meaning, a jiva, the one who is not realized, is a part or portion or a limb or a fragment of the Supreme Self. So the great teacher, Bhagavan, the great student Arjuna is Bhagavan. All the listeners or the students of this scripture are all Bhagavan himself. Everything and everyone is he himself. Yet Bhagavan cites some examples to specifically say that it is me. However, while citing the example of the exalted ones, he does not mention the name of Dronacharya. We have to note this. So keeping this in mind, let us proceed. Let us find more about Dronacharya-ji from other scriptures. Now Dronacharya-ji is introduced when Duryodhana is seen approaching his teacher and informing him about the composition of the army of both sides arrayed on the battlefield. The question is, would Dronacharya, who is the commander-in-chief, not know this? So here is a teacher who has his own student treating him as if he was not up to the mark. To know more about Dronacharya-ji, we need to study a bit of his character, his life. He was the martial preceptor of the Pandavas and the Kauravas, the commander-in-chief of the Kurus, the son of great sage Bharadvaja. His father, the sage Bharadvaja, called him this name because his seed fell at the site of a nymph called Vitachi, which he preserved in a Drona. Hence he got his name Dronacharya. Though a Brahmin by birth, he was well versed in the science of arms, which he learnt from Parshurama. His wife was Kapi and his son was Ashwathama. He was killed by Drishtadyumna during the great Kurukshetra war. Now we see Dronacharya committing mistakes. Duryodhana did not accept the advice given by his grandfather Bhishmacharyaji Pitamaha of not fighting a war and of returning to the Pandavas their right to share. The commander-in-chief Dronacharya supported the unrighteous Duryodhana. So this was unbecoming of him. So in the Great War, we find that a great warrior like Duryodhana, Dronacharyaji, could not achieve victory even though he was valorous. Right? He was killed by Drishtadyumna during the great Kurukshetra war. In the great war, on the 10th day, the son of Ganga, that is Bhishmacharyaji, fell on the ground. Thereafter, we find him for 5 full days. It was this Dronacharya of great strength and valor who fought ferociously in the battlefield. He fought with Drishtadyumna. Then there was fight between him and his disciple Arjuna, which was equally ferocious. Later on, he tried to avoid Arjuna. Now, in the Kurukshetra war, he had killed 210,000 kings along with their elephants and horses. A great feat indeed, isn't it? Now, Skanda Purana discusses about his death. Dronacharyaji had pierced Drishtadyumna in the course of the fight. So it was Bhima who placed Drishtadyumna in the chariot and addressed Dronacharya, highlighting his dharma. There are some Brahmanas who are not contented with their duties specific to their caste, and they take to training in the use of weapons. It has been declared in the Smritis that non-violence is the greatest virtue of Brahmanas. Now, for the sake of your son, you stand firm on this battlefield and kill many kings. Do you know that the son of yours is lying dead on the battlefield? Still, you are not grief-stricken. So these are the words used by Bhima to his own guru. Now Dronacharya went to Yudhishthira for confirming. So confirming from Yudhishthira that the words spoken by Bhima were true, he cast off his weapons and fell in his chariot, resorting to fast unto death. So taking this as an opportunity, as a right one, Drishtadyumna rushed towards him and cut off his head. But before that, a fiery flame went up to heaven through the head of Dronacharya, which is seen by Lord Krishna, Arjuna, Kripacharya, Dharmaputra Yudhishthira, and many others assembled on the battlefield. A great soul indeed. We are not talking about someone ordinary. Now, Skanda Purana also discusses the after effects of his death and how Dharmaputra had to atone for the sin that he committed. So Keshava Krishna revealed to his son Ashwathama the circumstances that led to his father's death. He was told that his father was an expert in battle and that he could not be defeated by righteous means, and hence unrighteous means had to be resorted to kill him. So hearing this, Ashwatthama lamented for a very long time and then took to vow to kill the Pandavas. Now on the 18th day, the war came to an end. It was coronation time of Dharmaraja Yudhishthira. He was also one of the factors which caused the death of their teacher. This we have to remember. Because there is a relationship between the two, of that of the teacher and the taught. The celestial sound reverberated that Dharmaputra does not deserve to be crowned, as he had told a lie to his preceptor and brought about his death. So it is said that for the purification from this sin, he was guided by Vyasa Bhagavan to take a holy dip in a meritorious lake well known as Ramatirtha. So after having taken a dip, he becomes free of this sin. Now we find Dronacharya ji as a prejudiced teacher. From the episode between him and his Shishya Ekalavya. So this comes in Mahabharata. Ekalavya, the son of Hiranyadhanus, a king of the foresters. Now he goes to Dronacharya to learn archery. Dronacharya refused to accept him as a disciple. Why? Because he was a Shudra. And that he was appointed as a guru for the princess, isn't it? So being determined to learn, Eklavya made a replica, an idol of the preceptor in clay. So he started practicing archery in front of this idol relentlessly, standing before it. Soon he became a matchless archer. Now once the Pandavas went to the forest for hunting. So one of the hunting dogs wandering saw Eklavya and started barking at him. Eklavya, what he did was he shot 7 arrows to its mouth to keep it shut. So when the dog returned to Arjuna, it was but natural for him to be dumbfounded, looking at the skill of the archer. But when he came to know that the archer was an unknown disciple of Dronacharya, his disappointment could not be hidden. His Guru Drona had once declared to him that he was the best. So how could another archer ever exist? So this was the question. Arjuna approached his Guru. Dronacharya asked Eklavya to give him as dakshina a fee to be paid to the preceptor. You know what he asked? He asked for his right hand thumb. So being a good student, without the least hesitation, Eklavya offers his thumb to the Guru. Now who stands out as a matchless character in this episode is not his Guru, but Eklavya. Because Eklavya displayed to his action tremendous respect and reverence for his Guru. He can be cited as an ideal student that any teacher could ask for. Who would not want a student like him? Definitely yes, isn't it? It could be argued that it was not proper way to shut a dog by Eklavya. Hence, he had to be punished. But it should be borne in mind that Eklavya was a student and he is always subject to correction if he erred, if he committed a mistake. Then we also have another event in his life, and we find him as a revengeful friend. So this comes as a relationship between him and Drupada. So Dronacharya had a classmate by the name of Drupada or Drupad, who was also called Yajnasena. He was a king of Panchala Desh. So he was a son of Prashtha, and he and Drona were close and friends. So Drona helped him a lot in his studies. They learned the science of archery from Drona's father Bharadwaj. And Drupad had succeeded to the throne after the death of his father. He was anointed as king of Uttara Panchala. Now Drona was facing, they parted ways of course after the studies. Now he was facing financial difficulties. It was very difficult for him to provide even the minimum necessities to his family. He struggled hard to make both ends meet. So once he found that his only son Ashwathama was being ridiculed for drinking a beverage made with rice powder and considering it as milk. Now this hurt him a lot. He spent sleepless nights, so he approached his friend for help. What happened? Now the story of these two friends is different from what we hear of the friendship between Krishna and Sudama. Now Drupad insulted his friend. The king had conveniently forgotten the promise that he had made while studying to offer him help when he would be coronated. Drona in his court became the subject of ridicule. He was shunned as a beggar. Drona left the palace, deciding to avenge his insult at an appropriate time. Time flew. His search for disciples capable of confronting Drupada also came to an end. Drona became the Acharya of the royal princes. At the end of the training period, he asked for the capture and defeat of King Drupada as his dakshina. Definitely, Drupada was captured by his pupils, the Pandavas. It was Arjuna who shattered the Panchala army, bound Drupada, and brought him to Dronacharya. When Drupad sought forgiveness, Dronacharya was kind enough to spare his life and allowed him to retain half his kingdom. He gave away Uttara Panchala to Drupad and Drona himself took Dakshina Panchala. Now, did the story end here? No. What happened? Let's find out. Now it was Drupada to take revenge. He had felt insulted, so he planned to revenge his humiliation. Mahabharata tells the story of how Drupad performs a yajna with the sole desire of getting a son who would avenge the wrong done to him. From the holy fire sprang a son named Drishtadyumna and a daughter called Draupadi. There was a celestial voice that said that this boy would kill Drona when he grew up. And we find the son afterwards treacherously cut off the head of Drona. Their friendship ended when Dronacharya kills Drupada in the battlefield. A sad ending of a friendship. Don't you think so? Not all friends are selfless and loving. This is what we get to know. Well, moving ahead. So the lessons that we learn from the life of Dronacharya, something that has to be avoided in our life. Lesson number 1. A thought of revenge does not subside after the revenge is taken also. It is like that fire that is set ablaze. The fire consumes the entire life. It keeps burning. On the other hand, had there been a thought of forgiveness that could have nourished Dronacharya's life and would have raised his stature as a Brahmana. Second lesson what we get is even a just, fair and valorous person cannot ferry across and win the war sitting on the boat of injustice. So in the war, righteousness wins and not unrighteousness. This we should bear. The third lesson. A guru who is partial is no great guru. A true guru not only wishes the best for his students and becomes overjoyed even if one of his students surpasses him in knowledge and teacher. He does not create obstacles in the path of the growth of his students. This we should bear in mind. Fourth point, he was valorous, but he was seen to be without any values. He was valorous, but without any values. He was deep rooted in attachment. So the lessons that we gather from the life of Dronacharya, though he was a good teacher, because his name finds a mention in Bhagavad Gita, so definitely he is one of the good teacher. But because of his flaws, we cannot rank him as the best. So whatever mistakes he committed in his life are the things that we need to avoid in our lives, right? Moving ahead. So lessons on don'ts. We don't have to do this to be learned from Dronacharya. What are they? When you look at his work, we find that he compromised and he took up Kshatriya Dharma to take revenge on his friend. Was he service oriented? So we find that whatever service he took up was adharmic and with a selfish motive. Okay, did he have values? In his entire life, he displayed qualities of vengefulness and attachment. Though Brahmin by birth, he lacked noble virtues. Yes, now we take a peep into Bhagavan Krishna's life. We find Bhagavan Krishna as an embodiment of value of forgiveness. And this we find in the relationship between him and Shishupala. Who was Shishupala? Shishupala was the name of the king of the Chedis. He was the son of Dhammagosha. So according to Vishnu Purana, we find this monarch was in his past birth the demon Hiranyakashipu, the king of the Asuras, who was killed by Bhagavan himself in Narasimha Avatara. Then he was again reborn as a 10-headed Ravana. Now in this birth, he was killed by Lord Rama. Then he was again born as the son of Dhammagosha. His enmity to Krishna, the eighth incarnation of Bhagavan Vishnu, continued even in this birth and with greater ruthlessness. He insulted Krishna at the Rajasuya sacrifice or yajna of Yudhishthira and protested against the seat of honor being conferred upon Bhagavan. So, and only when he transgressed the limits crossing 100, his head was cut off by Krishna with his Sudarshana Chakra, his discus. Because Krishna kept the promise that he made to his mother of forgiving the son for 100 times. Now, thus we find Bhagavan displayed the beautiful virtue of forgiveness. Then we also find him as a friend, but as what type of a friend? An understanding friend. And this we find in the relationship between him and Sudama, who is also known as Kuchela. So this we find in Mahabharata. This also comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, on the advice of sage Garga Muni, their parents sent Rama and Krishna for their studies, higher studies, to the ashrama of great sage Sandipani. Now, during their education at the ashrama, Krishna and Kuchela, Sudama, became intimate friends. One day, Krishna and Kuchela went to the forest to gather firewood. In the heavy rain and storm that followed, they lost their track and wandered about in the forest. The next day, the preceptor brought them back from the forest. Now, in the Sandipani, at the feet of Maharshi Sandipani, Krishna learns 64 arts and Dhanurvidya. Dhanurvidya is a science of archery. So after these studies, we find they parted ways. In time, both of them got married. Then what happened? Now, the married life of Sudama. We find Krishna is a friend in need, yes. And it was very difficult for Sudama to gather enough meals for the day for him and his family. His wife, Shushila, had heard stories of his friendship from Sudama. And so she would constantly ask him to seek the help of his friend Krishna. So, on the advice and persuasion of his wife, one day he reluctantly decides to go and meet his friend with a little beaten rice as a gift for the Dwarkadesha. On reaching the gates of the palace, he was definitely prevented from going inside. But when Krishna was informed about his friend at the gate, he rushed to welcome him, washed his tired feet, snatched the gift which Sudama was trying to hide away from him, ate the beaten rice, relished them as if it was some great offering because it was offered with love. And he continued eating till he was stopped by Rukmani. So during his stay, Sudama could not fathom courage to ask his friend any help. He was definitely moved, isn't it? Then we find Krishna as a true friend. Now Sudama returned home without any gifts from his beloved rich friend. Did he complain? No, we do not find him complaining. On the contrary, he was very happy to have that beautiful moments with his friend, to have met him. He considered this to be the best thing to happen in his life. And when he reached his place of abode, he found that his humble hut had transformed into a majestic palace. His wife and children adorned in the finest of clothes and jewelry. Krishna displayed the qualities of a true friend who understood the hardship and pain undergone by his friend. He displayed the qualities of how one should try to ease others' problems in the manner that he was capable of. Now, this understanding plays a very important quality in any relationship. In a true relationship, there is no need for verbalization and vocalization. Feelings should reign supreme and communication should just happen. Don't you think so? Yes. Now we try to find out something during the wartime. How did Krishna display his character? So, what are the lessons given during the wartime? Now, Krishna took up the services, as we all know, as a charioteer to Arjuna. As such, Krishna came to be called Parthasarthi, meaning a charioteer of Partha. Partha is another name for Arjuna. He also came to be known as Sanatana Sarathi, the eternal charioteer. Now, Jagadguru Krishna, in every breath of his stay on the earth, was teaching either through his words, that is Bhagavad Gita, Uddhava Gita, or through his deeds. Now, by the way, the name of Krishna's chariot is Kapidwaja, meaning the banner of the monkey, because the flag of the chariot became embellished with Hanuman. I am sure everyone knows this. Moving forward, now this chariot has a symbolic meaning. There is a symbolic representation of this magnificent chariot that was driven by Bhagwan himself. The chariot is the Sharira, the gross body or the physical body. The passenger, Arjuna, is a Jiva, the embodied individual soul. And the charioteer or the driver is a Krishna. Who is Krishna then? Krishna, you can call him as Atma, the higher intellect, or the self. Now the Kauravas, so the chariot is in the battlefield, isn't it? And the opposite army consisted of Kauravas. The Kauravas represent the demonic thoughts and the Pandavas represent the divine thoughts in any mind. So with proper practice, the quantity of thoughts must reduce and the quality of thoughts must be refined, noble and divine. Now the reins, what are the reins? Reins are the thoughts of the mind in operation. So either permitting indulgence, fulfilling sensual gratification, or living a life of prudence and vigilance with caution. Horses are nothing but the five senses of knowledge through which you and I gather data about the world and its beings. So if the control of the chariot is in the hands of the Lord, with a humble submission of surrender, the destination of the self-realization is attained. There's no doubt. Be rest assured. The path of Dharma ever triumphs. For those minds under divine guidance to accept the daily duties of life and the spiritual duty effortlessly. We just need to submit to the higher will. Now, taking a look at the horses. In the Kurukshetra war, Krishna, we saw, is a charioteer of Arjuna. The chariot was drawn by 4 or 5 white horses. That is what they are usually displayed. Now, 4 horses, the names of these horses are Shaibya, Sugriva, Meghapushpa, and Balahaka. Now, these horses were considered divine and said to possess extraordinary speed and strength. It is said that Krishna took great care of his horses. He loved them all and treated them with love, respect, and ensured that they were all well fed and rested. Krishna would personally attend to them, brush the dirt off them, groom the horses, pick up the hooves, and feed them with the best grains, grass, talking to them with compassion and love. He would ensure their well-being by ensuring that they had enough rest and water during the long rides. Because of this rapport that he built up with the horses could understand every subtle instruction of their master, and they moved in unison, the other horses yoked to the chariot. So, now what we are trying to find out here. See, we are already aware of Krishna's relationship with the cows during his childhood days. But now we understand this beautiful relationship also extended to every living being on this planet, not only, you know, restrained to the cows or confined to the cows, but it had extended. Now, there are so many lessons during the war that we find. One is where Krishna makes Bhishma's promise stand. Okay, so now this we find in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Bhishma Stuti, we find Bhishma Charyaji revealing how he had taken an oath that he would make Lord Krishna lift a weapon. How he would not lift a weapon? I will make him lift a weapon. And he says that to fulfill his promise and prove it to be better, Lord Krishna breaks his oath of not lifting a weapon during this Mahabharat war. At that time, he is seen to be jumping off the chariot and running towards Bhishmacharya with the wheel of a chariot, like how a lion would charge an elephant in order to kill the elephant. And so fast that the upper garment fell off and the earth also began to tremble. So Bhishmacharya's promise is kept, whereas his promise is broken. The compassionate Lord always kept the devotee's words reign supreme to that of his. Such a beautiful lesson we get from Bhagavan. So lessons to be imbibed from the Lord. Work, you'll see, no work is big or small for Bhagavan. He was a charioteer, Dwarkadish becoming a driver. He also washed the feet of the guests in one of the yajna, being a king, right? So he showed that no work in this world is big or small. And about service, we find the Lord tirelessly working for the upliftment of mankind and establishment of dharma. Values, what to talk about values. In his entire life, he displayed qualities of compassion, love, kindness towards one and all. More importantly, he showed us how to be forgiving and to be full of thanksgiving. To sum up, we all live in the same world, full of beings and things. Our interactions, our reactions, our relationship with them make our life or break our life. Our interactions comprises of giving and taking ideas, pieces of advice, instructing, training, explaining, and even preparing or helping the other sail through the challenges of life. Our interactions always are in the nature of nurturing the other and thus in a way implanting our image in the minds of others. If these interactions are not teaching, then what is it? Tell me. Sometimes the teachings are vocal and many times through our actions, especially for the younger ones in the family and also the elder ones in the family. We teach all whom we come across in our lives, either by citing ourselves as an example, a role model, or a precedent to be emulated and followed. Many a time, the message sent across is very prominent. Do follow me. Sometimes, when our behavior or words or actions are not so good, it serves as a warning to the observer. They build up an idea in their minds. Do not follow this one. He is acting nasty. So we are telling them not to follow us and become a person like us, as our behavior or words or actions are not good. So then what do we become? We become a warning. Either we become an example or a warning. So as a warning, we send red signals of danger. Now tell me, who wants to become an angry person? I do not think anyone in this world would. Who wants to be a criminal? No one. It is circumstances and lack of discernment that make one walk the wrong path. Take a time to think. So teaching and learning happen in the educational institutions. Teaching and learning happen in the educational institutions. True. But let me tell you all, more learnings and teachings happen outside our classrooms. Do you agree? We all are teachers. The people whom we come across become our students, unknowingly, unintentionally. We all are students too. The people with whom we interact teach us some or the other lessons of life on life. We all have been gifted with a wonderful faculty of discernment of the intellect. We can behave exactly like how Dronacharya behaved, or we can emulate Bhagavan Krishna. Now the thing is, sometimes we behave goody-goody, sometimes not. Many a time we all are a mixture of the two. But the question is, can we stick to one? The choice is ours. Did you choose? I'm thanking you all from the core of my heart for helping me reflect aloud. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Om